Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Boulanger. Up next, Ravens big win Monday Night Football. Let's talk. Well, the Baltimore Ravens get a big time win last night, Monday Night Football, against the Los Angeles Chargers. And let me get out in front and say I am super glad that I was wrong. I predicted that the Baltimore Ravens would lose this game 27-24. And to be honest, my prediction was based on the residual thought and feeling from last week's game, the mess that we were as a team as far as penalties and being undisciplined, the mess that we were as it pertains to coaching. And I didn't have an expectation that we would have fixed a lot of those flaws from last week. And when you include the injuries that we were listed to have between Roquan, the uncertainty about Travis Jones, the uncertainty about Justice Hill, who had an injury report earlier the week, I was not sure who would be playing, how effective they would be. So, man, I was super surprised, man, to see the fill-ins step in and handle their business, and also to see the guys who had injuries make a huge impact in this game, man. So let me get to shout-outs first, right? Let me start with shout-out to Malik Harrison, right? He stepped into Roquan Smith's spot, and I thought he performed very well. Was he perfect? No. But he was playing hard-nosed football downhill, and when he put his pads on you, you knew that he was there. There wasn't no bouncing off. There was no hitting but not wrapping up. When he came with the wood, you knew that you were going to the ground. I mean, he made big hit after big hit. One play in particular that I'm thinking about is when he just ran through the line of scrimmage and crushed the running back before he could even get started. So, man, I'm really, really proud to see what Malik Harrison did at that middle linebacker position. And in fact, I'm so excited about his performance. I say he needs to get on the field a little more beside Roquan when Roquan Smith gets back. Maybe move Trent Simpson around as more of a chess piece and let him play a little bit of that middle linebacker position, to where you can see some more smash mouth football. I'm not saying he should start over Trent Simpson, anything like that. I'm not crazy. I'm just simply saying when a guy performs, excuse me, when a guy performs that well, when he hasn't started in a long time for the Ravens, when he steps in and performs like that, you have to be proud of that performance and that players, man. So shout out to Malik Harrison. When I also think about the defense, shout out to those guys who played in the trenches. Travis Jones, who's been dealing with an ankle injury over the last couple of weeks, performed well against the run. Madubuike, those guys getting some pressure, clogging holes, limiting some runs. Yeah, J.K. Dobbins got off early on in the game, and as a response, man, the guys down low, they performed well. Not great, but they performed well and performed with some consistency. Shout out to the pass rush. They were not elite, but they did do what they needed to do, and that's bring Justin Herbert down. Kyle Hamilton, Odafe, and those guys, man, real solid job last night. Shout out to the guys in the back end, Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, Odafe, Kyle Hamilton, and I'm going to throw in even Brandon Stevens. Tre'Davious White gave up the pass interference, but I still thought those guys as a collective did what they were supposed to do and played pretty good coverage, kept everything in front, didn't let much get deep. I think that I only saw 2 completions last night over 15 yards. I may have that incorrect just a little bit, but I thought that defensively everybody played their role. And I think that if we can continue this consistency, we could only get better. When I jump to the offense side of the ball, man, shout out to Lamar Jackson, man, for keeping the offense in the road, right? The offense really didn't get started well. You saw a big-time completion to Nelson Aguilar, very similar to the one last week that got called back, but then the big completion to Aguilar gets called back for a whipping penalty by Patrick Ricard. Then the second drive, I think there was an illegal formation penalty, and those things just kind of kept setting us back early on in the game. But Lamar Jackson, the leader of the offense, kept the team in the road. We didn't get too far left, too far right. We just kept plugging away. So shout out, man, to 75% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns through the air, and then 1 rushing. Kind of a complete game from Lamar Jackson, what we've come to expect. Shout out to Derrick Henry, man, who just kept plugging away, right? 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards, break one long, tackle for loss, break one long. So he just kept, being consistent, playing downhill. He did take some big hits, but a guy his size and his power, he can endure some of that. And so, good job to Derrick Henry. Shout out to Justice Hill for being ready, man. When his number was called, to be able to have the vision and the speed to take it the distance on the 51-yard play that really closed out the game. So shout out to Justice Hill for being ready. Shout out to the wide receivers, specifically Rashad Bateman, who made the adjustment in the end zone to bring down the touchdown. That was a play that could have been easily dropped. It could have been easily knocked away. I know it was a pass interference, but yet and still, he had the concentration and the fortitude to bring that play in, man. So shout out to Rashad Bateman for holding on to that touchdown. Shout out to Mark Andrews for making big catches. And then, man, just shout out to John Harbaugh. I've been hard on Harbaugh a lot this year, and I will continue to be when he doesn't show up and do his job correctly. But I thought last night he had some guts to make some of the calls that he made. I think we converted 4 fourth downs in this game, which I thought were big time. The biggest one being 4th and 1 on our own, I think 16-yard line, if I'm remembering correctly. We convert that, and then we turn it into a productive drive. So, man, so shout out to John Harbaugh, man, for having some guts in this game and probably coaching his best game of the year as it pertains to decision making. So I'm really proud of, man, of what I saw. Some flaws in this game really just still come down to some self-inflicted wounds that I think that we still have some time, especially with the bye week. In week 14 gives us a couple of weeks off to rest our bodies and kind of put some collective thought together. So I still think we got a little bit of time to improve. We shouldn't be talking about improvement this late in the season, but it is what it is at this point. Let me see what else. Another flaw in this game, I still think the offense is too slow and clunky, right? I think what we saw, although we put up 30 points, it seemed to be a hard 30 points. I mean, it really, really did. It didn't seem to have a real flow. The game didn't really seem to be as lopsided as it was. I think it was like 30-16 late in this game. They scored a late touchdown, if I remember the game flow correctly. But we were up by 2 touchdowns, but it didn't really feel like that, right? You had the big play to Bateman. You had the big run by Justice Hill. You had a couple of big runs by Derrick Henry. But other than that, it just seems like this offense was going uphill most of the night, just trying to, find their way. And I still think that the thing we haven't done well enough was hit the gas a little bit, right? Give this offense a little nitro, right? In order to get them going more fluently. I think it would absolutely help, but it is what it is. We did get out of here with the win. Let's talk about some specifics from this game. I thought last night, man, the Baltimore Ravens showed a collective team mentality that they would fight, right? When things were tough offensively, the defense held up. When things got loose defensively, the offensive side of the ball stood up. And so I thought, man, that they just came to this game being the Ravens, right? I think that they had some adversity early. The Chargers went down and scored right off the bat, no resistance. And he was like, oh my gosh, is this what tonight's going to look like? But then, for the next 2 quarters, basically, the next 2 quarters, they didn't render anything but some field goals. And so I thought that it really showed that we do have a mentality that we can tap into and put up some resistance. And so I thought you saw that on both sides of the ball. As it pertains to what we look like going forward, I think that there is still an element of this offense that we can tap into that I think has been unused and untapped into this season so far. That is the addition to Keaton Mitchell to the offense. Right, I know Justice Hill is doing a great job, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Justice Hill. I'm not trying to take snaps away from Justice Hill. I'm not trying to take carries away from Justice Hill, but I think that speed element, if Keaton Mitchell still has it, that speed element is one we have not tapped into. Maybe like some screen passes, maybe like some toss sweeps, something like that, just to see if he has that spark that he had last year. We're getting ready to flip over to December, and it was around this time last year when he got hurt. So he's basically 1 full year removed from the injury. So he should be getting back more healthy. And unfortunately, it may be more close to the playoffs where we see a real boost from Keaton Mitchell. But I think that's an element that we have not introduced, and maybe it takes the bye week and some game planning to get that done. But I'm excited to know that we have not tapped into that yet. So that's something that could be upcoming. The other thing is Diontae Johnson. I think it's been hard for him to find his way thus far. And I think rightfully so, right? I think that he's been a guy that's been displaced for a couple of seasons. He was kind of displaced his last year in Pittsburgh. And although he was productive in Carolina for the most part, he kind of lost his way there as well. And so then coming to your third team basically in a calendar year, I think it's going to take through the bye week for the Baltimore Ravens to be able to really introduce him to like a game plan and a flow that he can get into. He does have an elite skill set to separate. It's just not anywhere where he's had any chemistry yet, and that's to be expected. He's just been here 2 weeks. He came in the middle of a week, no real practice, and then because we're just kind of in a game flow week to week, there's no real opportunity for him to kind of catch his breath and get acclimated really to this offense. So it may be another couple of weeks before we really see anything beneficial from Diontae Johnson, but it's still exciting to know he is on this roster, and it is another element of the offense that we have not tapped into just yet. So Keaton Mitchell's speed, Diontae Johnson's separation, two elements that we still could really see be added to this offense. I think when we look at the defensive side of the ball, I think that the bye week, I know we still have one more game against the Eagles. It's going to be a big time matchup. We'll start talking about that probably Wednesday or Thursday. But I think that when you really kind of think about this defense, I think that it's going to require another level of creativity to really get this defense to its very best. Now, I'm not saying the best defense in the league. I'm saying to its very best, right? When you look at Marlon Humphrey and Nick Wiggins and Brandon Stevens and Tre'Davious White, which are going to be your corners who are going to play down the stretch, I think that being able to give Marlon Humphrey a more permanent spot in the slot, which you're kind of seeing that more lately, has him in his best role. He's been effective down there in the slot. And I think that we can keep Wiggins, White, Stevens healthy, right? I think that we could be solid on those cornerback spots. And then I think Arthur Maulet, whenever he is healthy, if he gets healthy, he can just be a complement to whatever Humphreys is doing down in that nickel cornerback role or the slot cornerback role. And so I think what we see from Adarius Washington and Kyle Hamilton is just to keep everything in front and then tackle whatever moves in front of them. I think that has been effective. And so I think creativity up front is going to be what's going to be beneficial. Some more stunts with the defensive linemen, some more creativity with what you're doing with the outside linebackers. I think that's going to be beneficial. And so I see some improvement. Again, I don't think this defense becomes great, but if we can get out of that bottom slot, and I don't mean by the numbers, because I think by the numbers, we've just been so bad throughout the year, giving up points and yards. I think that we are going to just kind of be statistically in the bottom half. But I think in gameplay, if we can get to that 16 to 18 range, which is just below average against the pass, that's going to look more like a bend but don't break defense. And if we can stay solid against the run, I think that we could do some things as we close out the season post-bye week and get into the playoffs. So let me close out right here. What does this win mean for the Ravens? Well, I think it was definitely a must win. The Baltimore Ravens could not suffer their fifth AFC loss before the bye week. And so we accomplished that, right? I think what this win does for us, it gives us the tie break for the fifth spot, meaning if we don't win the division, it gives us the tie break over the Chargers. If we come out with the same record, it gives us the tie break against Denver if they continue to stay in playoff contention. And I think that kind of solidifies for us that fifth spot, unless we just do something silly and go on a couple of game losing streak down the stretch. I think that it also keeps the door open, which I really thought was closed for the AFC North. I did not think that Pittsburgh would lose to Cleveland, but they did, and I'm glad that they did. And so we're going to see what Pittsburgh looks like on Sunday in the division against the Bengals. And when you look at Pittsburgh's schedule, you know, they have 2 games against the Bengals, another game against the Ravens, another game against Cleveland, and then they have another AFC game. So literally going down the stretch, they have 5 AFC games remaining, and then they play Philadelphia as well. And so I think this win last night keeps the door open for us to catch Pittsburgh. And so my hope is that we can just handle our business, okay? I think that one of the most important things, no matter what happens on Sunday against Philadelphia, I think one of the most important things for going into the bye week is that we deliver offensively. Lamar Jackson, Ronnie Stanley, Derrick Henry, Rosengarten, Zay, and Bate healthy to the bye week. I think we have enough depth at tight end that if something were to happen there, we still could be okay. But I think those 6 guys must get to the bye week healthy. I think that defensively, if we can deliver Roquan, Marlon Humphrey, Washington, what's his name? Hamilton, Madubuike, and Travis Jones to the bye week healthy, I think we're going to be in good shape. Not that those other guys aren't important, but I think we have enough depth at some other positions that we can fill in just like we've been doing and get by through injury. So, man, if we can get out of Sunday, no matter what it looks like, healthy and get to that bye week, I think that we could clean up some things and come out refreshed and be ready for a December run. So listen, I'm your guy Boulanger. This is the GM, and I'm out.